Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Hurting Ben Carson's campaign, that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. This is a pretty nasty story that has damaged the Carson campaign and perhaps the image of Senator Ted Cruz. As we reported yesterday, while the caucus voting was underway in Iowa, a CNN reporter, Chris Moody, tweeted misleading information about the Carson campaign. Almost immediately, the Cruz campaign used that information to tell Iowa voters that Carson may be withdrawing from the race. Dr. Carson believes that hurt his vote tally. Ted Cruz has apologized. CNN says it did nothing wrong. Here are the facts. At 6:43 Central Time, Mr. Moody tweeted, quote, "Carson won't go to New Hampshire, South Carolina, but instead will head home to Florida for some R&R. He'll be in D.C. Thursday for the National Prayer Breakfast." Moody tweeted some other stuff after that trying to clarify, but apparently that did not get to CNN political reporter Dana Bash.
We should say that our Chris Moody is breaking this news that Ben Carson is going to go back to Florida, to his home, regardless of how he does tonight here in Iowa. He's going to go there for several days, and then afterwards, he's not going to go to South Carolina. He's not going to go to New Hampshire.
That is false. Ben Carson had events planned in New Hampshire even before he left Iowa. Again, that CNN report, flat out untrue. Enter the Cruz campaign, which at about 7 p.m. Central Time, 17 minutes after the initial misleading tweet, said this, quote, "CNN is reporting that Ben Carson will stop campaigning after Iowa. Make sure to tell all of your peers at the caucus supporting Carson that they should coalesce around the true conservative who will be in the race for the long haul, Ted Cruz." So you can see that the Cruz campaign used a false report by CNN to damage the Carson campaign. Last night on The Factor, Dr. Carson told me he accepts Ted Cruz's explanation that he personally did not know what was going on. However, Carson also said this.
A culture exists within the Cruz camp that would allow people to take advantage of a situation like this in a very dishonest way. Isn't this the same thing we see with the Obama administration, the IRS scandal? No responsibility. They were awfully anxious to get it out there, weren't they?
Now, there is no question that CNN is responsible for the false report. But the Cruz campaign is also wrong, and Senator Cruz should take disciplinary action against some of his staff. However, that may not happen.
So we simply, as a campaign, repeated what Ben Carson had said in his own words. He said after Iowa he was going to go back to Florida for a couple days, and then he was going to go to D.C. to the prayer breakfast. And what that told us was he was not going to New Hampshire.
But again, Carson had events booked in New Hampshire, so come on. As far as CNN is concerned, it says it is standing behind its initial report, which is ludicrous. That news agency screwed up big time and apparently doesn't care. Talking Points has said it many times. The state of American journalism is on the verge of collapse. Ideology has permeated hard news coverage, and honest reporting is becoming almost scarce, especially in political circles. CNN should apologize. Ted Cruz should take some action, and this should never happen again. The Carson campaign was damaged by erroneous information, period. And that's a memo. Now for the top story reaction, joining us from Sarasota, Florida, Karl Rove. So, am I going wrong? What do you think about this?
No, I think you're right. First of all, though, a minor correction. I think the email from Chris Moody, it's one of 3 emails that start at 4:41. First email says that Carson's going to catch a flight home tonight after his victory speech. Second one is the confusing one that says he's not going directly to New Hampshire or South Carolina. He's going to go home and then go to the prayer breakfast. But the third email says he's going to stay in the race no matter what. So there is the center email that goes out about 4:43 is sort of confusing. But Dana Bash, she either didn't look at all 3 or she didn't question
it doesn't
what
matter.
That center one does.
Here's why it doesn't matter. Number one, they were tweets. A hard news reporter shouldn't be tweeting at all. Period.
Exactly.
Okay? That should never happen in any news organization because tweets are shorthand. You cannot explain in tweets, all right? So no hard news reporter. Opinion is okay. No hard news reporter.
Should depend on them. Yeah,
okay.
you ought to go to the original source.
Wait. There's supposed to be an editor, all right? There's supposed to be people in charge of what is said on television. All right, Dana Bash is their top political analyst, the one they use for the debate. She clearly said that her reporter, Moody, was saying this. So all the other stuff walks. Well, you know, BS walks, it walks.
Look, she didn't even read all three of his tweets. If you read all three of his tweets,
that's CNN's responsibility. And the fact that they won't even apologize or admit a mistake is, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes them. Admit it.
Hey, I'm making your case stronger, not weaker. Don't be upset with me.
I'm upset because Carson got jobbed. This isn't what our democracy is supposed to be. This was used to damage a campaign in which Carson has spent a lot of money and time. And I'm not rooting for Carson. I would do this for Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. This is wrong, and it's out of control, and it better stop.
Well, let's look at the second part of this, because at 7 p.m., the Cruz campaign, Spence Rogers, sends out a tweet, and the tweet is headlined, "Press says that Carson is going to take a break." And then it says he's going home, and he has a big announcement later this week, so tell all the Carson people to caucus with the Cruz people. This goes out at 7 p.m. Now, the campaign, you just had Rick Tyler, the spokesman, on, who defended this by saying we only used his own words. Well, nowhere in Chris Moody's conversation with the Carson people does he say, "I'm taking a break," and nowhere does he say, "I'm having a big announcement later this week." They sent it out at 7 o'clock. At 7:53, the Carson campaign sends out a thing saying, "We're here staying in the race, and we're going to New Hampshire and South Carolina." And at 8:20, the national co-chairman of the Carson campaign, Steve King, sends out a tweet saying, "Looks like Carson is getting out of the race." Now, they knew at this point that this was inaccurate. Now, let's also look at one other thing. They say, you know, Senator Cruz, in his initial explanation about this, said we were sending it to our team, leaving the implication, I suspect to most viewers, that this had to do with sending it out to the staff members. No. They sent this to their nearly 1,500 precinct captains. There are 1,500 precincts in the state, and they sent this message from Spence Roberts to those precinct captains. Now, why does that matter? Well, the gap between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz is 6,239 votes. There are 1,500 precincts. Do the math. If this message caused precinct captains in the precincts to tell the Carson people, "Your guy's getting out, he's having a big announcement later this week, caucus with us," if that cost Carson 4 votes per precinct to switch to Cruz, then Cruz beats Trump. If he doesn't switch 4, then he loses.
And Trump is calling for an investigation, a federal investigation into this whole thing today. All right, that was a good explanation, and I want people to know how serious this is. But nobody gets a pass on this, all right? The Cruz campaign doesn't get a pass, and CNN doesn't get a pass. Now, yesterday we reported that your close personal friend, George Soros, donated $6 million to Hillary Clinton's super PAC in December. You have a super PAC, Crossroads, right? Have you donated any big money to any Republican candidates?
No, we're not involved in the Republican presidential primary. We've been spending some money on Hillary Clinton's, on making certain people understand Hillary Clinton's record. We're off to the strongest start we've ever had. We do it a little bit differently than the Democrats. The Democrats require cash on the barrel, so they get a $6 million check from George Soros. Our supporters generally tend to say, "Here's how much I pledge, and here's when I'll give it." But we're off to the strongest start we've ever had.
All right, and I'm happy you can have canopies or whatever, but I want to know who you guys are going to give money to. Do you have a roster of people you're going to give money to? Do you know who you're going to give money to?
Well, we anticipate to be active in the presidential campaign. We've already spent money in the New Hampshire Senate race,
but not for
Ohio
any of the
Senate
presidential candidates.
No. Our Crossroads supporters are split across the board. We will not be involved on behalf of any single presidential candidate. We will keep our focus on Hillary Clinton, whom we think is the likely Democratic nominee, and then help the Republican nominee once he or she is selected.
All right, Mr. Rove, we appreciate it very much. Thank you, Nick.